Hi everyone, I am Susan Hopkins and I am here today and I'm just going to talk about this concept of soft eyes. It's language that I use and I think more and more people are starting to use when we think about self-reg. It's really another word for maybe self-reg eyes is probably the better term. I just found out, I didn't know, that the term exists in Aikido, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and means something a little bit different. So if you Google soft eyes, I mean, you'll find it there in lots of places, and it's not surprising there's more than one root of it. But in Aikido, from what I'm understanding, soft eyes is when you defocus the gaze a little bit, and you see a broader perspective. Instead of hard eyes, which is really, really relevant and related, but not quite the same thing. So I thought I'd just share a little bit of the roots of it. So I first heard about soft eyes when I was working in the Northwest Territories, and I was the coordinator of early childhood and kindergarten. And one of my roles was bringing in a new curriculum for 5-year-olds. Ended up being for 4 and 5-year-olds. And so it's actually how I first met Stuart and how I learned about self-reg. It was really through that work. But one of the things that we were really looking at was the whole child. We had competencies that included in the realm of relationships with others, but also relationships with the land, health and well-being, problem solving. It involved all sorts of things about the whole child. We were very much trying to work away from what we were seeing happening in the early years, which was this schoolification, the idea of pushing the curriculum down earlier. People meant well, but they were trying so eagerly to get kids reading and writing and math, reading in particular, earlier and earlier, thinking that was going to help and give them the best start. But really the science, both the learning sciences, the neuroscience, every angle that developmental, every angle that you looked at told us that actually this wasn't really how we got children doing better in school. That the best readers, I mean, you looked at the Scandinavian countries, for example, they don't put pencils in kids' hands until 7, and they have some of the highest rates of literacy and so on in the world. They're complex, of course. They also have all sorts of social supports and things. But nonetheless, this is what we were trying to do, understanding that you cannot separate what we would call academic achievement or learning from whole child well-being. And so I was explaining this to an elder from one of the many cultures of the Northwest Territories, 11 official languages. Just imagine that, 11. And that's a lot of official languages in one territory. And I was telling her about the whole child and how connected it was. And we really used the Dene Kede in particular, which is the Dene curriculum for the North, to sort of inform it, and it looks at the different elements: emotional, social, the physical well-being, spiritual well-being as well. And she looked at me and she said, and I was telling her as well about how this changed the way our perceptions of a child, our view of the child, and we saw the child is capable, and we see that in the Regio, we see that in Aboriginal curricula, we see it. You start with the child is capable. It's not that empty vessel to fill. There's a beautiful little spirit to protect and to help thrive, but that very, very capable. And we're really looking at wholeness, whole well-being. We cannot separate that. And she looked at me and she said, well, in my culture, we call that soft eyes. And so looking at the child with soft eyes. And so it's always stayed with me. And that's what we do in self-reg. And self-reg, what I love about self-reg and Stuart, I learn something new every day. It's the science. So soft eyes is not just about compassion and empathy. It's that. It's looking with your heart inside of what's going on, no matter what's in front of you. And it may seem like it's an awful thing, but where can you see what's going on? The kids do well when they can. There's no such thing as a bad child. It's that soft eyes. It gives us the science. And we use that same soft eyes to look at ourselves. When we can understand something neurobiologically going on to explain why we just got grumpy with grandma, why we just growled, why a child does something they're not supposed to do, why there is an outburst of behavior, why somebody's lying to you, why these things that seem awful in the world, these moments where terrible things happen, and we can suddenly say, okay, there's some stuff going on inside. This person did not sit here and decide. This may look like it is a decision, may look like it, but there are other things at work, and we need to recognize how complex that is. Doesn't mean that we're driven and we have no choice and no accountability over our choices or any of those things. It means it's way more complex. You start bringing in, the limbic system into the story, and survival brain comes on. Holy smokes, different show. And it's there for evolutionary purposes, to save us, to help protect us in times of danger. Children, youth, teenagers, adults, seniors, they have their limbic system running the show at times, and they're trying to keep us safe, them safe. It's not trying to be bad. It's not trying to be manipulative. There is something more going on, and soft eyes helps us see what we can't see if we're just looking at misbehavior and through that lens. And that's hopeful, and it's important, and it's absolutely key to self-reg.